People often say kindness costs nothing, but for Shanice Carter, it seemed to have cost her everything, or so she thought. On a humid night in Savannah, Georgia, a single mother bent the rules to serve a late customer in a hoodie. She didn't know it was Morgan Ellis, didn't know she was being observed, and certainly didn't know that losing her job the next day would turn out to be the greatest gift of her life. Sometimes, the wildest dreams come true when you're not even chasing them. Sometimes, a lost job isn't the end, but the beginning of something extraordinary. This is the story of how a cashier chose kindness over protocol, and that choice reshaped not just her life, but an entire community. Before we dive in, drop a comment letting me know where you're tuning in from, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our latest stories. Shanice Carter's knees ached as she restocked candy bars at the counter of Ray's Quick Stop, a 24-hour convenience store nestled off Savannah's main drag. The clock above the register blinked 11:45 p.m., just 15 minutes shy of her shift's end. Her body begged for a break after 9 hours of ringing up sodas, lottery tickets, and gas receipts, but she pressed on. Not when Malik was counting on her. "Mom, can I join the robotics club this summer?" Malik had asked over breakfast, his dark eyes gleaming with excitement. "My science teacher says I've got a knack for building stuff." The memory of her 9-year-old son's grin powered Shanice through the exhaustion. The club cost $450, 2 extra weeks of late shifts, but seeing Malik's face light up when he tinkered with his homemade gadgets made every sore muscle worth it. The bell above the door jingled, snapping Shanice out of her thoughts. She turned to call out that the hot food station was closed, but the words stalled. A figure in a gray hoodie and jeans lingered at the entrance, hands stuffed in pockets. Despite the casual getup, the woman's posture hinted at something more taller than most, with a quiet confidence. Ray, Shanice's boss, had a strict rule: no cooking after 11:30 p.m. period. "Grill's off, no exceptions," he'd bark. But the woman's slumped shoulders and tired shuffle made Shanice pause. She looked like she'd been running on empty, just like Shanice felt most nights. "Come on in," Shanice said, stepping from behind the counter. "Order quick, though the grill's about to shut down." The woman glanced up, her face half hidden by the hood, and offered a faint smile. "Thanks," she said, her voice low but clear. "I just need something warm and a minute to sit." Shanice waved her toward a small table by the coffee machine, grabbing a notepad from her apron. She noticed how the woman kept her head down, like she didn't want to be seen. "Probably some musician or writer," Shanice mused. Savannah got its share of artsy types, especially during festival season. "What can I get you?" she asked. "Coffee, black," the woman said, "and whatever you recommend to eat." Shanice tapped her pen against the pad. "The chicken biscuit's a hit around here. My son swears it's the best in Savannah, but he might be biased since I sneak him the leftovers." The woman chuckled, a soft, easy sound Shanice felt she'd heard before but couldn't place. "Sounds perfect. Just one kid?" "Yep, Malik. 9, already a gearhead," Shanice said, grinning. "Dreams of building robots or working at NASA someday." "That's a solid dream," the woman replied, adjusting her hood as she nodded. Under the store's harsh lights, Shanice caught a fleeting glimpse of her face, sharp cheekbones, piercing eyes, and her pulse quickened with recognition. But she played it cool, keeping her smile steady. "I'll get that in," she said, heading to the back. Through the kitchen hatch, she saw Tito, the night cook, wiping down the grill. "One last order, special case," Shanice called. Tito groaned, but flipped the burner back on. In all their years together, he'd never turned down a request she vouched for. While the biscuit cooked, Shanice swept the floor and counted tips, $67 tonight, not counting the latecomer. It'd go toward Malik's robotics club, paired with her morning gig at the dry cleaners. The woman sipped her coffee in silence, staring out at the empty parking lot. Despite her low-key vibe, she had a presence that eased Shanice's nerves. She'd served plenty of big shots over the years, some snappy, some entitled, but this one felt different. When the food was ready, Shanice set it down with extra napkins and a packet of honey. "Best chicken biscuit in Savannah," she said. "Thanks, Shanice," the woman replied, glancing at her name tag. "You didn't have to do this so late. I know it's past your cutoff." Shanice shrugged. "Everyone deserves a hot meal and a breather, no matter the hour. My grandma raised me that way." The woman nodded, like she was filing that away. "Your grandma taught you right." Shanice smiled, genuine. "Malik's what keeps me going on nights like this. Gotta lock up now, though." As she mopped, Shanice eyed the security camera above the register. Ray checked the footage daily, but maybe he'd missed the timestamp. Even if he didn't, she wouldn't regret it. The woman ate quietly, letting out little hums of approval that made Shanice grin. When she finished, she waved Shanice over. "Your son's right, this is the best chicken biscuit I've had." She pulled out her wallet, and Shanice started to ring up the tab, but the woman slid a stack of bills across the table. "Keep the change," she said, standing, "and thanks for the kindness. It's worth more than you know." Shanice waited until she was gone to count it. Her jaw dropped at 6 $100 bills. That was Malik's robotics club covered, plus extra. As she locked the store at midnight, exhaustion mixed with a thrill. Sometimes bending the rules paid off, especially when her gut said it was right. Outside, a dark sedan peeled away, its taillights vanishing into the night. Morgan Ellis leaned back in her seat, already plotting her next step. Morning hit too fast. Shanice dragged herself out of bed, legs stiff, but the memory of that $600 tip sparked a grin. "Malik, breakfast, baby," she called down their narrow apartment hall. He bounded in, backpack slung over one shoulder, pretending to steer an invisible robot. "Mom, guess what? My teacher says I could demo my bot at the school fair." Shanice pulled him into a hug. "That's huge, and I've got news too, your robotics club's looking real good." Malik's eyes widened. "Really? But yesterday you said—" "Let's just say a nice customer tipped big last night," Shanice cut in, flipping pancakes with gear-shaped syrup drizzles. Good stuff happens when you least expect it. The morning blurred by. She dropped Malik at school, then headed to Ray's for her day shift. But before she could clock in, Ray's voice boomed from the back. "My office now." He stood by his desk, arms folded, the monitor replaying last night's footage 11:52 p.m., Shanice handing over the biscuit. "Explain this," he said, jabbing at the screen. "She was hungry, Ray." "No big deal," Shanice said. "Rules are rules," he snapped. "What if she'd been in trouble? Insurance doesn't cover after-hours messes." "Nothing happened," Shanice pushed back. "She just needed food." Ray's jaw tightened. "I warned you. That woman last night, whoever she was, cost you. Apron off, Shanice. You're done. You're firing me for helping someone?" Her voice broke. "I've got a son to feed." "Should have thought of that before," Ray said, hand out. Shanice's fingers trembled as she unpinned her name tag. 9 years, gone. She thought of Malik's club money, now rerouted to bills. As she reached her car, her phone buzzed an unknown number. "Hello?" she answered, steadying her voice. "Is this Shanice Carter?" a crisp female voice asked. "Yes, who's this?" "I'm calling for Morgan Ellis. She'd like to meet you this morning at her Savannah office. Are you free?" Shanice nearly laughed, glancing at Ray's silhouette in the window. "Yeah, I'm free now," she said, heart racing. Shanice drove to downtown Savannah, stepping into a sleek office building that dwarfed her faded quick-stop Polo. The lobby's polished floors and chandeliers made her feel small, but she squared her shoulders. "I'm Shanice Carter," she told the desk guard, still stunned by her own words. "Here to see Morgan Ellis." The guard perked up, made a call, and handed her a pass. 12th floor. Ms. Lena will meet you. The elevator ride stretched forever. Shanice's mind churned. Why did Morgan Ellis, the rising political strategist, want her? Was she mad Shanice hadn't fangirled last night? Lena, a warm woman in her 60s with a sharp blazer, greeted her as the doors slid open. "This way, Ms. Carter. Coffee? Water?" "Water, please," Shanice said, catching herself mid-refusal. She'd skipped breakfast in the rush. Lena led her to a plush waiting area with a view of Savannah's historic squares. Ray's Quick Stop looked like a speck from here, much like her old life felt now. "Ms. Ellis will be right with you," Lena said, handing her a glass. Shanice sipped, steadying her nerves as her phone pinged a text from Malik. "Mom, aced my science quiz. Teacher says I'm robot ready. Love you." She smiled, blinking back tears. The office door swung open. "Miss Carter," a firm yet kind voice said, "thanks for coming on short notice." Shanice turned to face Morgan Ellis, no hoodie now, just a tailored suit and those same keen eyes from last night. "I hope it's okay I didn't let on I knew you," Shanice said, bracing herself. "You looked like you wanted quiet." Ellis smiled. "That's precisely what I needed, a meal and a break, no fuss. But that's not why you're here." "It's not?" Shanice asked. Ellis sat across from her, leaning in. "I've been scoping out Rays for a while, watching you specifically." Shanice blinked, stunned. "Me?" "I'm building a community project for a national initiative," Ellis said. "I need someone with heart, someone who does right even when it's risky. That's you." "Me?" Shanice's voice barely rose above a whisper. "I just got canned for breaking rules." "You fed a stranger knowing it might cost you," Ellis said. "That wasn't the first time, was it?" Shanice thought of the extra snacks she'd slipped to kids, the late-night chats with lonely truckers, the times she'd paid for a broke customer's gas. "No," she admitted. "That's why I'm offering you a job," Ellis said, sliding a card across the table. Community Outreach Coordinator gleamed in silver, stamped with a federal seal. "Why'd you help me last night? The real reason?" Shanice met her gaze. "You looked beat and starving. Everyone deserves kindness when they're down, hoodie or not." Ellis's smile widened. "That's the answer I wanted." 3 months later, Shanice stood in her new office, walls plastered with letters from families she'd helped kids now in robotics labs instead of dead-end streets. Malik soared too, training with a NASA engineer Ellis had connected him with. Today, Shanice sifted through scholarship applications, 30 slots, 250 hopefuls. "How do I pick?" she muttered, each story a gut punch. An email pinged, "Urgent budget review." Her hands shook as she opened it. Funds had shifted, big sums unaccounted for. "This can't be," she breathed, scanning the numbers. She thought of Malik's proud grin, the kids she'd promised futures. Reporting it risked everything, but silence wasn't an option. She dialed Ellis. "We've got a problem with the books," she said, voice firm. "Money's moving, no clear trail. Come see me," Ellis replied, calm as ever. In her office, Shanice laid it out. "I had to tell you, even if it tanks the program, Malik's shot, all of it. These kids deserve honesty." Ellis stared, then grinned. "No money's gone, Shanice. It was a test. We needed to know you'd call it out." Relief flooded her. "A test?" "Integrity's everything," Ellis said. "Now how about executive director?" Shanice gaped. "Me?" "You've earned it, compassion, grit, truth," Ellis said, handing her a new contract. "One catch," Shanice said, pen hovering. "Every kid gets a shot, even if it's smaller awards." Ellis laughed. "That's why it's you." 6 months later, Shanice cut the ribbon at Ray's Quick Stop, now a community hub with tech labs. Ray managed it, his son in the first class. Malik, in a robotics team jacket, stood beside her, beaming. "Dreams aren't just ours," Shanice told the crowd. "They're what we give others." Ellis, in a hoodie again, nodded from the back. It started with a cashier who chose kindness, and it was just the beginning. The Cost of Kindness, a tale of dreams and determination.